All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the road to 18-inch arms. So this past week I've been on vacation and I got a couple workouts in, but missed a couple too. So this is about a week and a half's worth of training. No crazy updates or anything since my workouts have been all over the place. So what I did is an Instagram Q&A. I might do this for the next episode as well, since my training half of this week was in. Or not in, it was on vacation too. So a few pretty good questions here that I do want to get through. So first one, do you think a natty with truly shit genetics could ever hit 18-inch arms? So with this, I would say no. And the reason for that is because if you truly have bad genetics and you really are in like the bottom 10% on the percentile spectrum, there's just things that are going to get in your way, whether it be the rate of your muscle growth and our lifespan just not being long enough, potentially running into health consequences or health issues that get in your way. It could even be something as simple as just your muscle bellies, quote unquote, or your insertions, quote unquote. So the muscle bellies, this is actually a pretty important genetic variable that I think is very obvious to the eye. If you look at say my biceps, you can tell I have pretty good bicep genetics because they peak. You can see they just pop out, and even if someone else has like the same amount of bicep mass that I do, their biceps might look a little bit flatter versus mine, where I can flex and they do pop out a little bit. And just having that like rounder bicep, even if the mass in my arm, for example, isn't bigger than someone with the flatter bicep that's more spread out, that's going to turn my arm into an 18-inch arm when theirs might only be like 17 or something. So it's hard to say exactly how much genetics play a role and how much total muscle mass you build is in like size or weight. But I'd say as far as measurements go, yeah, I think your muscle bellies play a pretty big role in that. So I think that's one area where I lucked out, but at the same time, I don't think I have excellent tricep genetics by any means. I think that's arguably one of my worst muscle groups from like a muscle belly perspective. So I still think my arm genetics are probably actually a little bit above average, but not to the point where it's like a massive benefit for me, since I think I have pros and cons to the way my arms look. You can even see my triceps here. Obviously, I'm not flexing them or anything, but like they're incredibly strong triceps and everything. They just don't pop out like other like top naturals would. Next question, do you have any calf or forearm measurement goals? As of now, no. Those are muscles that I don't enjoy to train as much just because they aren't quite as important as other larger muscle groups closer to your center that probably play a bigger role in your physique. And right now, my main focus, and for most of my lifting career, my focus has been on just overall mass and trying to be as big as possible. And then I do still think aesthetics are cool. I think having a good looking physique is very important. So once I get to like a point where I'm comfortable with how much size I have. Not that I'm not comfortable with what I have now, but once I can like kind of scratch that itch of just wanting to be stupidly jacked, then I'll probably shift my focus to things like calves and forearms just to kind of complete that bodybuilder look that I mostly have, but I definitely still have some lagging areas like calves and forearms, for example. At Barbell Apparel, satisfaction guarantee isn't just talk, it's a promise. Wear it, use it, live it. Their gear is built to endure your every move. If any issues arise, they've got you covered with repairs or replacements. Guys, I wear this stuff every day. I put it through RPE 15 on every lift every single day, and it still holds up like it's brand new. This stuff, you don't have to worry about replacing it every couple months, and if you ever do need to replace it at some point down the road, they got you covered. Next question, hardest struggle when it comes to growing a particular muscle and solution to it. So for me, it was for the longest time my arms, especially my triceps. The solution was lengthen biased, resistance profiles, stable lifts, and going through a mega range of motion. Look how much my arms are bending there. That's as much as I can possibly bend them. For reference, I can't even get that low when I'm doing warm-up sets. I can't get that low and get that much depth until I have however much this weighs. It's like 275 pounds. Well, probably minus the bar on this Smith machine, or minus 30 pounds or whatever it is. So massive ranges of motion, lengthened, biased, and stable lifts, and no need to just try new lifts all the time. No need to rotate forever. Just keep doing these bread and butter lifts like I'm doing here. And ironically enough, this question has the clips overlaying of what I do as my bread and butter for arms. Next question, thoughts on pre-exhaustion to incur growth on stubborn arms. So I'm not a fan of pre-exhaustion because I think you should be fresh when you train the muscle that you're trying to train. I don't think that it has to necessarily be first in the session, but I would rather see somebody do something like chest and biceps than chest and triceps. In my own experience running push-pull legs for a long time, by the time I got to my tricep training after a push day, my triceps were fatigued, but they weren't stimulated because they did a lot of partials. They did a lot of lockouts, which isn't very potent for growth, but it does still fatigue the muscle. So by the time I got to the end of the workout and I was doing triceps, my triceps weren't able to produce their maximum force, and it basically felt like I was giving kind of a half-assed workout, even though my triceps were like technically still fresh to train these movements in a way that is kind of pre-fatigue. So it just didn't work for me at all. So I don't really like pre-fatiguing. Next question: how many variations did you cycle through until you found your perfect set of arm exercises? So it's all of them. I mean, I literally tried everything, and ultimately what it came down to was not just experimenting blindly, which I think a lot of people do. It came down to just really looking deeper into lifting principles and looking at the muscle itself instead of what lifts are most popular. That might sound almost contrarian to what most of lifting culture does, but I would say once I really understood how important getting a giant range of motion is, having a lengthened biased resistance profile, and having a stable lift is for growth, I looked at the popular arm lifts for biceps or triceps, and most of these don't check any of these boxes. So that's why my arm training quote unquote looks unconventional, but it's actually like bread and butter basics of what grows muscle for other muscle groups, like even squat, bench, deadlift, for example. These are generally length and biased exercises depending on the variation, and people say these work very well. So I took similar principles and added even some more kind of meat and potatoes to that with extra stability, like using machines or like a pad on the preacher curl. And shocker, this has grown my arms very well. Next question: do you think Revival hates you because you're bigger and stronger than him despite being younger? He probably hates me because he doesn't have a counterpoint to my talking points, but who knows? Next question: how much strength loss on a cut is normal and how much indicates muscle loss guesstimate? This is extremely individual and lift dependent, so there's really no way for me to answer this. One thing I will say is when I did my deep cut, probably down to about 10, 11, 12 body fat percentage back in 2019, my bench maintained, my squat and deadlift went down significantly. I want to say my squat went from 455 to maybe I wasn't even squatting 455 then, but I do remember my squat and deadlift went down, I think, 50 to 60 pounds, and then about must have been another 50 to 75 pounds on each lift, respectively, but everything else roughly maintained. That was obviously back when I was like power building. Next question: favorite cheat meal and why? I don't have cheat meals, bro. I'm a perma bulker, but I would say if I was cutting and I could have one cheat meal, I'd have to say pizza with pineapple. Popular opinion, right? Next question: how to get out of skinny fat phase? Again, this is pretty individual, but I would say if you are a newer lifter and you still have a lot of potential for growth, I would say the best thing you can do is maintain or be in a slight surplus. As long as you're not like at an unhealthy body weight, assuming you really are skinny fat where you're actually a lighter weight, but you maybe have some belly fat or something like that, a small surplus and training really hard is actually usually a pretty good idea. Next question: stuck at 14-inch arms. I have a makeshift preacher curl in my home gym. Afraid it's killing my gains. No, I would stick with the DIY preacher curl. Get it as stable and locked in as you can, so you don't subconsciously hold back out of fear of it breaking. Push it as hard as you possibly can, and that should be totally fine. Another thing you can do is a single arm dumbbell preacher curl on the back of a 45-degree incline bench, and this is a great option too. So, as long as your engineering and your construction's good, you should be good. Either way, I'm out of time for today, so let me know if you have any questions you want to see answered in the next one. I'll see you guys then.